Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Greeting from APO. Thank you for joining APO Talk. So this is the live from APO Secretary Office in Tokyo. So I'm Tat Manabe from the Agriculture Division, anchor today. So firstly, I'd like to quickly introduce Dr. Pampathi from Iraq Industry Organization. I'm going to introduce him later, but beforehand, I would like to show a video first.
Now, India and Pakistan are facing their worst plague of locusts in decades. Authorities in both countries fear a food security crisis. And even as Pakistan struggles with the economic fallout of the coronavirus lockdown, its agricultural sector says the insect infestation poses a greater challenge.
These tiny insects are far from fussy eaters. Feasting in swarms of millions, they're now threatening to out-eat Pakistan's population at a critical time. The locust threat is several times more dangerous than the coronavirus. I would say it is 100 times, 1,000 times more dangerous than corona. When you were fighting against coronavirus, you had crops, grains, vegetables, things to eat. No one went to bed hungry. While Pakistan's economy is reeling from the ongoing coronavirus lockdown, the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization estimates its agricultural losses from locusts could surpass $5 billion this year. Authorities have set up a national response team to assist 61 districts of the country that are under threat.
Thank you very much. So I believe most of you, the audience, have seen this news recently. So locust issue is well known by most of us. It is significant across countries. Now it's starting from Africa, but now it's spreading over to Pakistan and India. So today we'd like to discuss pest management for sustainable and productive agriculture. Here I'm honored to welcome Dr. Pampathi Gappa from Iraq Industry Association for Ag Pest Management. So Dr. Pampa, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us from Bangalore, India. How are you?
I'm fine. Thanks, Tatsan.
Thank you. So we just watched a video of a locust. So you have been working in the pest management for long years. So this news may not be surprising to you, but for us, this is a bit scary, especially knowing that this could be a food security issue. So in this talk, I would like to hear from you, Dr. Pampa, about the impact of pests in agriculture, not just limited to locusts, but pests in general. So we just started off with the locust, but hope we can discuss more in the broader context, including the importance of the pest management in agriculture, what are the solutions, what could be the solutions, and how we can support farmers at the end. So let's start from the locust first. So could you share us your view that how the locust is significant in agriculture production in Asia Pacific? So could you go through your slide deck in the first session?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tatsan. First of all, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. I would like to thank APO for giving me an opportunity to talk today. And also I'd like to thank Iraq Asia for nominating me to talk on pest management for sustainable, productive agriculture. Next slide. Locust attack in 2019-20 is believed to be one of the worst in the past 2 to 3 decades. Locusts are part of a large group of insects called grasshoppers. However, they differ from grasshoppers in that they have the ability to change their behavior and habit and migrate long distances. Usually, when they are solitary or single, they lead a very shy life. But when they get crowded together, they become gregarious and they can be called as mini pests. And also the locusts can change in color from brown to pink and yellow. According to UN Food and Agriculture Organization, a swarm of locusts can contain about 40 million insects. That's the size of Paris or New York. And this swarm can eat the same amount of daily food as 3 million people. So now we can imagine why locusts are such a big threat to food security. Also, the crops are destroyed and livelihoods of millions of people are threatened. In India, the extended monsoon provided a favorable environment for the locusts to multiply. Next slide, please. Yeah, these are some of the pictures from India and Pakistan where locust was causing heavy damage to the crop. Just a click, please. Yeah, the Pakistan government said that this was the worst locust infestation in more than 2 decades. Similarly, this was the worst locust infestation in India also in the past 2 to 3 decades. If you see, in Pakistan, a state of emergency was declared to protect the crops and help the farmers. The desert locusts in Pakistan, they arrived from Iran and they caused significant damage to the crops, especially the corn crop, the cotton crop, and maize crop. Even in India, crops were impacted, and the crops were mainly mustard, cumin, and wheat. They caused significant devastation of these crops. Next slide, please. Yeah, these are just to show what impacts can locusts have. As I mentioned, locusts can have significant impact on crop and livelihood. As per estimate by government of Pakistan, monetary losses in 2020 and 21, it can range from anywhere between 3.4 billion to 10.21 billion respectively. Locust plagues, they not only rob rural families of their livelihood and income, but can also take a toll on lives of women and children. In some cases, children may be abandoned to go to school and help their families in protecting their crop from the locust. It is estimated that around 34,000 households will need of emergency livelihood and food security assistance due to crop losses. Many more people may be directly affected by crop losses. It might lead to price rise in key commodities. Yeah, so we have seen about locusts and we know what impact it can have. So there is one more transboundary pest which had crossed boundary from Africa to India and later spread across Asia Pacific. I'm not sure how many of you have heard about fall armyworm. Tatsan, can we please show the next video, please? Yeah, this is about Thailand. So this pest invaded the region and it had impacted the food security. So if it is not controlled, famines can occur. This is a pocket-sized monster, but it can cause huge damage to the crop and threaten the food security. So the fall armyworm had entered Thailand by migration. It can fly long distances and can destroy cornfield in a matter of days. The pest doesn't need a visa to cross country. Farmers must take preventive measures, or else Thailand, which is called the kitchen of the world, might be significantly impacted. In Thailand, most people work in agriculture, so and they had never seen this pest before, including the farmers. Next slide, please.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Pampa?
Next slide, please. Yeah. So this is fall armyworm in Asia Pacific. Asia was in high alert when this pest invaded Asia, and it started spreading. Next click, please. Yeah, if you look for, if you Google for this pest, you can see numerous headlines like you see on the screen. So this has caused significant anxiety among the farmers since it invaded the region. Next slide, please. So the pest first invaded India in 2018 from Africa, and then it started spreading to other countries. Now we are in 2020, and if you see now the fall armyworm has invaded all the major corn growing regions of Asia Pacific. So this is a map which shows the spread of fall armyworm as of March 2020. Next slide, please. So in the video which was shared regarding fall armyworm in Thailand, it can cause significant damage to the crop because this pest can cause damage to the corn crop right from seedling stage till the crop is harvested. During the initial stages of the crop growth, when the corn crop is in the seedling stage, it can act as a cutworm. Later, as the crop grows, it can feed on the leaves, and it can cause dead heart symptoms like the stem borer. If the pest is not controlled, you can see the entire crop is eaten up. As you see at the bottom right hand corner, you can see only the stems are left. There is nothing. The fall armyworm has eaten the entire leaves. Later, it can also feed on the corn.
Okay, sorry, there seems to be a connection lost with the Dr. Pampar. So could you wait for a moment until he comes back? Okay, so far we have talked about the locust and fall armyworm. So when it comes to locust, in the past 20 years, the 2 decades, the issue was mostly around Africa. And we have never thought about this locust migrate into Asia Pacific. But now this year, we saw that this came into India and Pakistan. Then now we are moving on to the fall armyworm. It is spreading across Asian countries and damages like this. Dr. Pampad, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm back.
All right, welcome back. Okay, so could you continue? Thank you.
Yeah, so the fall armyworm, initially it can feed on the leaves, and later it starts going on feeding on the cobs. You can see at the bottom left hand side, it can cause significant damage to the cob, and it can also feed on the kernels. So this is what fall armyworm can do to the corn crop. Next slide, please. So what are the impacts which fall armyworm can have? It can have impact on economy. It can have impact on social. It can have health impacts. It can have environmental impacts, and it can also have impact on livelihood. So what are the economic impacts which fall armyworm can cause? So if the pest is not controlled, yield losses as high as 50%. You can imagine it's a huge loss. 50% of the crop can be damaged if the pest is not contained. And also, as per estimate by FAO, if the pest is not contained, economic losses of up to 4.8 billion can happen only in corn. So these are some of the economic impacts. So what social impacts it can have? Food prices will increase, causing inflation and threatening food security. Because of feeding by fall armyworm, the crops are lost, so it can have an impact on animal feed industry because major chunk of corn goes into poultry industry. And what are the health impacts? Nutritional excess and intake may become a huge problem, and also malnutrition may cause long-term health problems. So these are some of the health impacts. Environmental impacts, because the pest is new to the region, so farmers will not be aware as what to do. So they might use whatever options they have in hand. Maybe they might use insecticides which do not have label, for this pest. Because of this lack of knowledge and appropriate pest control measures, so it might lead to ineffective methods of pest control. And livelihood impacts, farmers may be forced to abandon corn crop due to suffering from reduced yield. So if farmers do not know how to manage this pest, and this pest is causing 50% or more damage to the corn crop, what will ultimately the farmer do? He might abandon the corn crop, which can have other impacts also. So these are some of the potential impacts which fall armyworm can cause.
Dr. Pampa? Hello?
Yeah, Tatsan, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the armyworm information. It is not less known by people compared to locusts, but sounds like it is more impactful across Asian countries, which is being widely spread in Asia. Other than probably fall armyworm and the locust, there must be other serious pests invading to Asian countries, which are not mainly known by people, but actually impacting on agricultural production across Asian countries. So there seems to be now in agriculture, it's shifting to a kind of a new era, tackling with the pests that we have never encountered in the Asian countries. So why this sort of outbreak or the new pest is coming up in Asian agriculture? Could you elaborate on that point, please?
Yes, Tatsan. Yeah. So we have seen about two pests, that's the locust and fall armyworm, which have caused significant impact to the crops. Apart from that, there are also other pests which have invaded the region. The recent example being tuta, or the pin armyworm in tomato. So it has invaded few of the countries in Asia Pacific, and it is also spreading. So we call these insects as transboundary pests. These transboundary pests, these are nothing but highly migratory insects or plant diseases or weeds that can spread to several countries and can reach epidemic proportions. So they can cross the boundaries, they can invade, and they can cause significant losses to the farmers. And they can also threaten food security and can damage the local biodiversity and also the environment. So these are the transboundary pests. And usually what is the pathway of spread, or how do they spread? Maybe it might be because of environmental forces, like we have seen in case of desert locust or fall armyworm, and also the wheat rust, and also maybe because of international trade, for example, fruit flies. And also maybe the other pathway could also be because of tourists and migration, the example being banana fusarium. So these are some of the ways that the insects or pests or weeds can spread. Next click, please. So it is estimated that this potential cost should be around US dollar 540 billion per year to world agriculture. Next click, please. So this is just a testimonial at the bottom from a Japanese farmer. So what happens when these new pests or alien pests invade a particular country? So the farmers are caught unaware. So they do not know what these pests are. So they might think this is a pest which they don't normally seen, or they don't even know. So the farmers are fully caught unaware of the invasive pests. And also when they go to maybe government institutes or maybe a distributor or retailer, they will not be in a position to explain what the exact damage is, or what is the exact pest or disease that is causing damage. So these are things, some of the things which the invasive pest can do. Next slide, please. So according to UN Food and Agriculture Organization, between 20 to 40% of crop yields are reduced each year due to damage by pests and diseases. So this is a huge loss, 20 to 40%. If you see, the population is growing and we need to grow more food, but these pests and diseases, they are causing damage to the crop, which can threaten the food security. Now, if you see, we cannot increase the land area, but we have to produce more within the land we have. So it is very important that we prevent the damage caused by these insect pests and diseases. Next slide, please. So we have these transboundary pests which can cross countries, and also we have pests which are native, and during some part of the years we see outbreak of these insects. Maybe to quote an example, we have these brown plant hoppers in rice. So these pests can be both migratory. They can migrate from Vietnam to China to Japan and cause damage. And also we have these pests like in country like India or Thailand, where these are native pests. They multiply every year, and they outbreak during some parts of the year. So what are some of the reasons which can cause this pest outbreak? Maybe it can happen because of deforestation. It can happen because of monoculture. If there is diversified cropping patterns, it can reduce pest. But if we have continuous cropping or monocropping, so the food is available continuously for the pest, and we can see pest outbreak happen. And also we see pest outbreak sometimes when a new varietal introductions can happen, and pest outbreak can also happen because of destruction of natural enemies. As I mentioned, in case of fall armyworm, when farmers were caught unaware of this pest, so they do not know what to use. If they use a wrong pesticide, it can destroy the natural enemies, and it can cause outbreak of some other pests. And also the agronomic practices can have a impact on pest outbreak. And also we saw about accidental pest introductions, maybe in case of maybe fall armyworm or tuta or whitefly. Sometimes pest introductions can happen because of trade. And then we have this invasive species like fall armyworm and tuta. And also the pest outbreak can happen because of injudicious use of pesticides. There will be development of insecticide resistance, and no insecticides might be able to control this pest, and then we might see a pest outbreak.
Okay, thank you very much. It's very interesting that I thought the reason of the pest outbreak is not many, but if as shown here, then it's quite a number of factors are being involved. So when it comes to the locust that you explained in the beginning, then that's shown as the invasive species with other factors, but it's not just with the nature of the pest itself, but other factors being involved, like you mentioned about the transboundary movement, and also the chemical itself or the monoculture. So there must be a lot of factors being involved. So this is a quite interesting slide to see why this outbreak happens. So then probably the next question would be that how we can control pests under these circumstances. So I think that most of people's immediate thing is like the pesticide, which we believe is the most effective product to control the pest. Then private companies can invest more into developing a very good, effective pesticide to control those outbreaks. But I'm not sure that if that could manage the pest outbreak with a couple of reasons shown here. So could you next give us your insight that what would be the solution for managing the pest outbreak, knowing those factors involved?
Yes,
Dr. Papa?
yeah, thanks, Tadsan. So when we hear about pest outbreak, the first thing which comes to everyone's mind is use of pesticides. Next slide, please. So if you see development of pesticide, it's not very easy. It's the journey of development of pesticide. It's very hard, very long, and very expensive. If you see in 1995, the cost of development of a pesticide was $152 million, whereas in the year 2000 it went to $184 million. And if you see the current cost of developing a pesticide is $286 million. So developing a pesticide is not very easy. It's a long process, and also it might take around somewhere between 7 to 10 years to develop a pesticide. So from the time it is discovered to the time the pesticide reaches market, it can take about 7 to 10 years, and the cost might be around $286 million. So it's not very easy. So when we talk about pest management, so we shouldn't always depend on only one option, that is insecticide. So we should have a what we call as integrated pest management approach to control the pest. So we shouldn't be depending on only one option. We should be using multiple options. Using this multiple options is what we call as integrated pest management. If you can go to the next slide, please. So integrated pest management, it is a holistic approach for sustainable agriculture. So what does this integrated pest management focus? It focuses on managing insects, weed, or diseases through a combination of techniques. So it can be cultural practices like using a resistant variety. It can be using a biological control option. It can be using chemical measures that are cost effective, environmentally sound, and socially acceptable. This includes the responsible use of crop protection and plant biotech products. So when we have this pest, we shouldn't always depend on one option for pest management. And why is pest management so important? As I mentioned, global population is on the rise, and therefore so is the food demand. So this means the farmer should increase yields on existing land while protecting biodiversity and also looking after the environment. And IPM provides farmers with tools and strategies not only to maximize production but also to minimize losses to insects, weeds, and diseases. So for pest management, we shouldn't always depend on only one option, but we should integrate the different options which are available so that we can manage this pest in a sustainable way and can ensure food security. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this is how the future of IPM with advanced tools and technologies look like. So when we talk of integrated pest management, we have 4 components. One is predict the pest, prevent the pest from coming. If the pest has come, scout and detect, and then remedy and treat. So these are the 4 components of integrated pest management. So the earlier IPM modules, they were designed from the scientific perspective with focus on ecological, environmental, and evolutionary aspect of pest management to reduce pest and reduce the losses. So the things which are highlighted in red, they are mostly the traditional focus. However, if you see, there are a lot of modern technologies in agriculture. In modern times, IPM, it is redefined where advanced agricultural technology and communication tools play a critical role in food production and consumption. So the need for a more holistic and modernized IPM approach is more important than ever before. Previously, we used to talk about predict the pest, use traditional methods of control like maybe biologicals or pest trapping or use insecticides. But we have numerous agriculture technologies which can be used now for pest management. Can we go to, can you please click once? So these are some of the technologies which are available now. Maybe drones. We know there is scarcity of water, scarcity of labor. Maybe we can use these drones for spraying the pesticides or to look into the fields if there is any pest or disease which has come to the field. And also we can use this trap monitoring to see if pest is coming to the field or not. So the modern IPM is redefined, incorporating these advanced agricultural technologies. Next slide, please. So if you see, industry is committed to integrated pest management. When we talk about industry, the thing which comes to many people's mind is development of pesticides. So industry is not only about development of pesticides, but industries are also committed to integrated pest management. So the industry supports sustainable agriculture to produce sufficient and affordable food and fiber in an environmental and socially sensitive manner. Industry is committed to integrated pest management. Our member companies enable and encourage the implementation of integrated pest management by developing and promoting appropriate products and services. We also cooperate with partners to develop and test IPM strategy as well as provide education and training. So industry is not only about developing pesticides, but we are also committed to promote integrated pest management. Next slide, please. So this is just an example to show the role of industry. So the industry, it is not only involved in research and development of pesticides, but they also provide IPM training to the farmers. So since 2005, so CropLife International, they have trained around more than 2 million individuals in integrated pest management. And also industry, they would like to establish public-private partnership. So the plant science industry believes in public-private partnership are essential for IPM training, as they can scale up access to new technology. So only companies cannot develop technology and can spread across Asia Pacific to all the farmers. So we need this public-private partnership so that the technologies which are developed can be easily accessed by many farmers.
Okay, thank you very much. Very good information about IPM. So I just learned the importance of IPM, integrated pest management, and also learned that agricultural chemical industries are really committed for the sustainable agriculture through IPM program. I understand that intent. And also you emphasize here the importance of PPP, public-private partnership. So while I understand the industry's effort for endorsing, encouraging IPM as a commitment, from your perspective, what is your expectation? What kind of support do you think would be needed for from public side, public sectors, to make this IPM being more robust and effective?
Yes, thanks, Tatsan. That's a very important thing which we need to consider. Can we go to the next slide, please? So these are some of the current regulatory landscape for pesticides in Asia. So approval timeline for crop protection products. So if you see, approval timeline for crop protection products in most of the countries, it is much longer, maybe as compared to in other parts of the world. So it might take somewhere between 7 to 8 years in Asia, as compared to maybe less than this in other regions of the world. So this is one thing which can be considered. So improve the timeline for registration of crop protection products. So the second thing is emergency approval. Provision of emergency approval or conditional approval in national regulatory systems in Asia to manage new invasive pests. Very few countries as of now in Asia have this provision. So all countries in Asia, they are encouraged to make such provision for speedier introduction of new technologies to manage the invasive pest. So I can just quote a example of fall armyworm. So when the pest invaded Asia Pacific in the year 2018 and started spreading to other countries, so there was excellent collaboration between private and public sector. So the private companies, they had knowledge about this pest because the pest was already there in Americas and Africa. So the companies, they shared their knowledge to the local agencies about the pest, the damage, and what needs to be done. And few of the countries, for example, like Thailand or Philippines, they gave emergency approval for a few of the insecticides which are already approved to manage this pest in other countries. So these are some of the things which can be considered. And next thing would be to consider potential opportunity for harmonizing the core data requirements for new pesticide registration by leveraging the experience of developed countries. So this is another thing, mutual acceptance of data. And other thing is biotech regulatory reforms, including genome editing to accelerate introduction of new traits for better weed or insect management. And another thing which I would like to emphasize is regulatory enforcement, improving the enforcement of existing laws in the country to minimize use or scale of counterfeit or illegal or unregistered pesticides, which is equally important. So these are the things which can be worked upon. So next slide, please. So coming to key takeaways, the economic losses caused by plant pests is significant. We saw what pests and diseases can do. It can threaten food security if breakout like locust and fall armyworm can occur. Recent climate changes, it's not doing any good, and transboundary movement has been enhancing the spread of new pests. We must be prepared. Preventing and addressing the damage caused by transboundary pests require cooperation between vulnerable nations. When we know that a particular outbreak of pest is happening, so it's always important that the countries share knowledge among themselves, share how the pest is moving from one country to another country, share their learnings from their country to other countries so that the knowledge can be leveraged. And as I mentioned, single technology cannot solve pest issues. So therefore, integrated pest management incorporating modern technologies must be considered to make agriculture more productive and sustainable. These days, we see a lot of technology coming into agriculture. So we should be readily adopting these technologies so that we can prevent the damage caused by these pests and diseases. Public-private partnership, not just within, but across countries are critical to respond to new pests spreading quickly and widely. Public-private partnerships are always important. No one can work in silo. So we need new technologies, and we also want that these technologies should be spread across across the countries. Therefore, public-private partnerships are very important. And last but not the least, policies around pest control must be strengthened to allow for rapid responses. So these are some of the key takeaways which I would like to highlight.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Pampa. Very, very informative. If I also could summarize, what I learned from you is that pests are shifting and appearing to Asian countries in different manner than used to be because of the climate change or the transboundary move. So we must be prepared. And then from your side, then chemicals are not a single solution, but IPM must be deployed. And to make it happen, so what you mentioned is that the PPP as a critical component working together, and not just within the country, but across countries to rapidly respond to a pest spreading around the countries in Asian countries. So that's I summarize your presentation. Thank you very much. It's very, very informative. So I have a couple of questions from the audience. So let me go through one by one. The first question is that Mr. Joshi from Philippines. So what advice would you like to give farmers for early detection or management in case outbreak like locust or fall armyworm happens? So any advice to farmers to tackle with issues?
Yes, Tarsan, as I mentioned, cooperation between countries is very important. We know locusts can go from one country to other countries. So it can move from Iran to Pakistan to India. So it's always better to share the information as to how the pest migration is happening. And similarly, in case of fall armyworm, so we knew that when the pest invaded Africa from America, so it's a matter of time that it might invade other countries in Asia Pacific also. And as per expectation, the pest invaded India in 2018 and spread very quickly to other Asia Pacific countries in a very short span of time. So it's always important that these countries share the information as to how the pest is moving, and also share their experiences as to how they were able to contain the pest, so that the other countries can leverage from these learnings. So this collaboration and cooperation, I would like to say, is very critical in managing these transboundary pests.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Another question, Mr. Lao Sabor from Pakistan, where the locust isn't a problem. So he's asking on locust. Is there any effective tested or trial method, effective method in process to prevent crops from this devastating locust attack? Are you any measures other than the current pesticides available?
Yes, Tatsan, if you see currently, one of the things which most of the countries are doing is using insecticides to manage this locust. But as I mentioned, integrated pest management is not only about spraying chemicals, but we have also predict and prevent. So we can predict how the pest is moving, and we can prevent the pest from coming to other countries. For example, if we know that pest is coming from one particular country and it's moving to other countries, so the pest can be contained in that particular country where it is breeding, so that it doesn't move to the other countries. So we should always think of this IPM approach, which also include this predict and prevent modules for pest management.
Oh, thank you very much. It's almost like managing the wildfire. So finding the point first and manage it in early on. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So another question, Mr. Yonder Mr. Yondor from Philippines. It's about the chemicals. How long is the shelf life of common chemical pesticides? So it's a kind of general question. But when it comes to the pesticide for managing these pests, then he's asking about the general shelf life of the product.
Yeah, if you see along with the pesticides, usually the shelf life of the pesticides would have been given. Whichever company are promoting the pesticides, usually the shelf life of the pesticides should be declared, and also they will advise not to use these pesticides after the expiry date. It might vary. Usually it might be around 2 years. So it's always important look at this aspect also while using chemicals for pesticide spraying.
Okay, thank you very much. One more question from Joshi, Philippines. What are the efforts of the industry on the conservative enhancement of the natural enemies for invasive pests? While we control the key pest, how can you make sure the conserving the natural resources, including natural enemies?
Yeah, excellent question. As I mentioned, so industry is not only about developing and promoting pesticides. As I mentioned, industry is committed to integrated pest management. And if you see any pesticide which is getting registered, now it has to pass through a very stringent regulatory measure so that it doesn't cause significant impact to the environment. And also, as I mentioned, managing the pest, we shouldn't only depend on chemical pesticides, but we should use an integrated pest management approach, which can include cultural practices, which can include a selection of varieties which are less susceptible to insects. And then, and the last option should be insecticides, and we should be using insecticides or pesticides in a judicious way as per label recommendation. So when we follow this integrated pest management approach, we can see that the pest is not only managed, but we can also preserve these natural enemies. So I'd like to just quote a small example of the one of the things which is followed in Vietnam, we call as ecological engineering in paddy. So along with paddy, in some farmers in Vietnam, they also grow what we call flower crops around the bund. So this also helps in enhancing the natural enemies in paddy ecosystem. So some of these things which are promoted locally by the research institutes or research organizations can be adopted and can be incorporated into what we call this integrated pest management approach.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now I like to raise a couple of questions going back to your presentation. I mean, your last piece, then you talked about the regulatory framework, or regulatory system could help to enable the technology, particularly new technology like biotechnology or genome editing or new pesticides or even for the drone application. That having the quicker approval that would be really an enabler for better management. So, is there any good practice in Asian countries to adopt a new technology to resolve an ongoing issue? Can you pick up one or two examples?
Yes, Tatsan. I'll just pick up an example of fall armyworm and country like Thailand or Philippines. So when this pest started invading Asia Pacific, maybe in mid 2018, India was the first country where the pest was seen, and it caused significant damage. So the learnings were quickly shared across countries. And what the countries like Thailand and Philippines did was they gave quick approval for some of the insecticides which are already used in other countries. So this is one thing which can be adopted, and some of the countries, if you see, they adopt these technologies like drone, which is very good. So some of these modern technologies must be adopted, but also the regulatory process should be seen that we don't compromise on a few of the things. So it's important that we adopt technology and also follow the regulatory process in the respective country. But if there is any way that by which we can improve this speed of adopting technologies, so we should be readily looking into it.
Okay, thank you very much. And one more question from me with regard to the IPM. Is there any particular good example for IPM, I mean the success story in IPM, where this is implemented well in Asian countries?
Yeah, if you see, Tatsan, there are a lot of things. Maybe I can take an example of fall armyworm also. So the pest is relatively new to this region, but you see there are a number of pest control options already available to manage this pest because of excellent public-private partnership. We have this pheromone lures, which can be used for monitoring of this pest. So this can be a first step. Pheromone lures can be first step, and then we can use some of the botanicals like neem seed kernel extract, or some of the biologicals like Bavaria. So these are the next things which can be incorporated, and then we have these insecticides. So if we use all these technologies, so IPM can be successful. And also we have countries like Philippines where also traits are being adopted. So all these practices can be incorporated, and we can have this integrated pest management approach and then give it to the farmers. So farmers have a lot of things on their mind, and only if they see that the pest management model which we give to them is viable, or if they find sense, they'll be adopting. So we have to work together and see that we give the best solutions to the farmer, and not give only one solution to the farmer.
Okay, thank you very much. So there are a couple of other questions, but time is running up, so I would like to close this session. The data that you indicated in the beginning about from FAO, the yield loss caused by the pest accountable for 20 to 40%. To me, it's significant. So then we anticipate this may go up because of the different pest shift. That could be go up, or I don't know. Other than IPM, is there anything that we need to think of how to increase the productivity in agriculture? I understand the pest management component. We have to work really hard. So
Yes.
do you think that IPM is really the most important solution to catch up on the 25-40% yield drag, I mean the barrier?
Yeah, Tatsan. So when I mentioned 20 to 40% yield loss, that is because of pests and diseases. Apart from this, there are other factors, other abiotic factors also, which can cause to the yield loss. So we should be looking into ways as to how we can prevent losses by both these biotic and abiotic stresses. So the losses caused by pests and diseases is around 20 to 40%, which is significant. So we should use different means, or we should use IPM to manage this pests. So wherever possible, maybe not only pest management, if there is chances where we can adopt new varieties or develop new hybrids which have more yield potential, so we should be looking into those aspects also. So insecticides insects and pests are one component. So we should be looking into it so that we can prevent these losses and we have sufficient food production.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Now I think our time is up. So again, thank you very much, Dr. Pampar, for your very valuable insights. And it was quite a good learning about IPM and the needs of PPP. Okay, so I hope his information and insights are useful to the audience, particularly those who you are from the agriculture and food sectors involved in this area. Okay, thank you very much. So APO Productive Talk will be, okay, thank you very much, Dr. Pampar. Okay, so APO Productivity Talk will be held every Tuesday and Thursday, featuring world-leading experts in various topics around the productivity. So please subscribe to the APO channel and stay tuned. Again, thank you very much, Dr. Pampar. Really appreciate it. And look forward to seeing in the future, in person. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks for the opportunity. Bye.